Hello,
Right.
everyone, and welcome to the Tree of Life podcast, episode something something dozen. We've done this a while now, Kubi. I'm so proud of us.
We
Uh,
have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
nearing up on the
dedicated.
second year, right? Like the end of the second year.
Seriously, wow, that's gone fast, but yeah, I think you're right. It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was looking through like while we were waiting for each other to actually get our lives together. I was kind of looking through our past episodes, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have like this is probably like nearing episode like 23, I think. So we almost have like two full seasons complete or two full
Yeah.
cycles. Yeah, and I don't think we
Oh
have
my
any plan of
God.
going anywhere.
No, we're
Yeah,
staying right
yeah.
here.
I think we did more Tree of Life podcasts last year than I did actual YouTube videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's it. Keeping it going, keeping the wheel turning.
But do you remember what season we started the podcast in?
No idea.
Springtime, which is the appropriate time to start something new.
Oh, see, this is what
Yeah.
happens when you start things on the right foot. It's got to be at
Yeah.
the right time.
Yeah. I mean, this is something we've talked about in episodes before. Uh-oh, the wiener dog has showed up.
Oh, show him.
I'll show him.
Show him to the
Uh, to
collective. Oh, look
Oh, he
at
just got up from
him.
a nap. Oh.
Oh, he's adorable. Oh my goodness. He's so cute. Such a sweet doggo.
Uh-oh, the mailman's here.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a point of focus for a dog, isn't it? Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so yeah, the we have our life together today for this episode, in case everyone's no noticing for sure. So yeah, as far as like, we've been talking about this for the last couple of years, is the
Mm,
appropriate time to start something new. And January has never been that time. I know probably in our episode last year about January, we were talked about how New Year's
mm,
resolutions are awful. Um,
mm.
the amount of people that start going to the gym on January 1st, the people that start a new diet January 1st, start a new career January 1st. It's not the best time of year to do that.
No, exactly. It's all Gregorian calendar bullshit. And I'm not going to take orders from somebody named Greg. I'm just not.
What about
Like,
Gregor?
who's Greg anyway? Who's this Gregory guy that invented this?
Yeah.
Knocked us out of our seasonal cycle.
It's really interesting is, especially in our Western countries in the sense of like the UK and the United States, we're kind of living this bubble where we're like, yeah, everyone just follows the Gregorian calendar, but not every culture still does. Like, yeah, the world of business does, but like the Chinese, I'm pretty sure, the Indians and many other cultures actually still have their own calendar that they follow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I think I knew with the Chinese because their New Year is February, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
What
And so
about
the remnants of
yeah,
what
that's
used to
interesting.
be are still there. Um,
Mm,
And that's the same thing with like the Celtic festivals and things like that. I mean, shoot, we see the Celtic, the Germanic festivals still in today in the festivals that we still celebrate
mm,
when it comes to Easter and Christmas and all
yeah.
that. We still see the remnants of that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the Celtic wheel, even Imbolc, which is February the 1st, that means in the belly. You're not even meant to be out in the world yet.
Hmm.
That's a spring equinox thing. So this time where it's not, it's before you're even brewing in the belly. It's the dream time before. It's that place sort of between the death of the year, which was Samhain, and the rebirth, which is at spring equinox. So it's this dream that it's a liminal realm, I think,
Yeah.
more so.
Yeah, and what I mean, dream states are obviously
Mm.
interesting because there's a positive to it because dreams are awesome. Like sometimes dreams can be, like you're envisioning something.
Yeah.
But also the dream state when we're in sleep is also the time we're healing at the same time.
Oh, that's so true. It's like an actual deep rest. It's like a shutdown system, isn't it? It's a chance to really go into self-care as well as envisioning and dreaming up things.
Yeah.
That's what I try to focus on. Once I've got to get my tax return in next week, and then after that, I'm doing a month of nothing. I'm just reading, bathing, healing, envisioning, dreaming, and that's it. That's literally it.
Yeah, I'm honestly the worst about taking time off. Absolutely terrible.
Mm,
Just yesterday, to me, yesterday was a day off, but I still ended up going out and doing something for a few hours.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm at home and I'm like, why do I feel like a corpse? And I'm just like
Yeah.
laying on the couch, and then I don't allow myself that time to rest.
Yeah.
I'm constantly like, what's the next thing? And,
Mm,
every wisdom practice I've ever seen around the world is about slowing down in the moment instead of focusing so much on what's ahead of you.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. Totally. Yeah, it's really going against the grain otherwise, isn't it? It's like our bodies know we should be hibernating. We can't lie to our bodies.
Yeah.
Not even for Greg.
Well, it's interesting. I think the last episode we were talking about, what if, humans hibernated instead, or an episode before. And in a way, like we can't fully hibernate like a bear or something like that. But I
Yeah.
do think that we can figure out what the season of hibernation means to us. And we are certainly in the height of the season of hibernation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm finding even if I go out and do like a little bit of work, I come back and I'm exactly the same. I'm like, oh, I can't do anything else for the rest of the day. And I think normally, maybe 10 years ago, before I was really on the spiritual path properly, 20 years ago even, I think I would have felt really guilty about that
Mm.
and made myself feel bad and pushed through it and forced myself to work harder. And now I'm just like, you know what? The bears are asleep. You should be asleep.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine to not be able to achieve as much. And yeah, just go into self-care, folks. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
I
think,
often also sorry, go ahead, Jacob. I was
no, no, you
gonna
go ahead. You continue your thought train there.
oh well, I was gonna just say, like I wonder if we do actually stall ourselves with manifesting a really good year if we don't allow ourselves that dream period to dream it into being first. So if we just go charging into the new year without
Hmm.
thinking about what we're calling in and actually really focusing on what we're calling in, maybe we don't call it in properly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting because even reflecting on my own journey, like 2 weeks ago, I released a video that's like, why I left YouTube in 2025 and my plan to come back. And I
Mhm.
immediately felt pressure like I need to come back right now. And it's just like
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, maybe January isn't that best time. I fall into that trap too because every
Mm.
society around me is saying it's the new year, new beginnings. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot of self-discipline to sit there in yourself and be like, this is incorrect.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think on the positive side for myself, I do think that this time of year is also a good time to close the chapter on something in your life. And then
Mm.
allow the healing to begin from that chapter. And then come springtime, start something new. So it's a good time. And closing a chapter does take energy. It can take a ceremony or ritual or some really deep work. But then allowing yourself the time to heal after that closing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been a big year for you, hasn't it, in terms of sort of rounding off a chapter of your life?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say 2025 for me was a really long winter in general,
Mm.
and so I think a part of me is also ready to like get to the spring. I'm ready for
Yeah.
the spring year with new things starting. But yeah, well, last year was definitely winter for me.
Yeah, right. And that sort of like winding down your kind of your path with the whole like the Odin traveling aspect of yourself.
Yeah, like we just had our Yule event with the Fellowship of Northern Traditions, and something that it kept coming up for me,
Mm.
especially when looking at like the first few years that I was doing this community work, is I was definitely in the season of fire in my life, in the sense of
Mm.
like, it was very energetic, it was very passionate, it was fiery, and I find that for me this Yule, I closed that chapter on
Mm.
the fire chapter of my life, and I'm moving into the grounded earth energies that I've been kind of
Oh.
looking for afterwards. And then also, I think with that, you can use a lot of different analogies. Like I think we're going to use a lot of those in metaphors in this video. But even within that, like maiden mother crone or warrior wizard wanderer, sorcerer mage or whatever whoever it was
Mm.
came up with that. And for me, it's like I'm also entering the stage of, the family man. And the family man needs to be a lot more grounded than, this Odinic fiery wanderer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting chapter of life, isn't it? Where you sort of have to start rooting down and there's a real magic to that era as well, I think. I imagine. I still think I'm in the process of learning how to do that myself, but it's I suppose one thing I'm wondering, as part of what might be what you're dreaming up at the moment to call in for this year, is how do you how do you envision to keep your spirit and your magic alive in that earthier way? What do you see ahead on
Um,
the path for that?
yeah, it's interesting because again, like putting on this Odin ritual. So, I think very famously, I've been known for my Odin rituals over the years. I think what kind of put me out there in my videos is I had this very fiery, passionate way of honoring and worshiping Odin. And this year for me was kind of that goodbye to that. And I've had a lot of thoughts and I've been journaling a lot about this. But I think a lot of people, when they get into their spiritual awakening, need the fire to wake them up. It's
Mm,
energy, it's passion. And I see that a lot when people get into paganism for the first time. They jump immediately to the fire elements, into the very wild beings, because it wakes them up. You need that shaking up,
mm,
that trance, that ecstasy. And Odin is that trance, that ecstasy. But at some point, you have to come down from that because eventually the ecstasy wears off. You need more and more of something to get you going. And I think that's why a lot of people fall into like plant medicines really heavy is, yeah, you do a few mushroom journeys, you do ayahuasca like me, and it can wake you up because you're like this, there are alternative forms of consciousness. But
yeah,
eventually you have to give that up and you have to walk away for a while because otherwise you're just seeking that high, seeking that flame. And for me,
yeah.
I've really tried to bring it down as I no longer want the intensity of the flame. I want the warmth of the hearth.
Oh, I love
Because,
that.
yeah, I think that's ultimately what we all desire to have in the end.
So it's more like going from that sort of the midday, midsummer sun into the warm, cozy inner fire.
Yeah. Yeah. And look at us
Yeah,
talking more about cycles there. There's so many
yeah.
cycles within our lives. Hello, we're taking a brief pause at some point in this video, because as always, we don't have a sponsor. No AG1 Greens, no MeUndies, nothing, just Kubi and I. So if you want to support Kubi and I and our creative and spiritual works, here's how. Kubi, how can people support you?
Thanks, Jacob. Well, I've got everything listed now that I'm doing for 2026 up on my website. So if you go to QB Made Crafts, you can see all the workshops I'm offering. We're particularly reaching out to retreats and tours this year, showing them the sacred sites and things like that. And as always, I've got my Path of the Oak 2-year study in druidry, ancestry, herbalism, magic, ritual, all of that, which is online. So if you fancy walking that path with me and learning how to create a deeper connection to magic and this realm and this life and the other realms, then go and check that out because I've kept it super affordable as always for the year ahead.
As I've changed career paths, I think the most direct way to support me now is if you're interested in getting a tattoo from me.
Mm.
So I do hand poke ceremonial tattoos. I may start doing electric at some point, but hand poke seems to be where I'm most comfortable. And I've just really enjoyed it. And, just this other weekend, I got to tattoo someone outside in the snow on a deer pelt. And so if that's something sounds like you want to do, that's what I do. If you want a tattoo of your, dog's face, maybe not so much. But if you want to get some Stone Age rock carvings or, Odin sculpture or something, that's what I love doing. And I do that in Cincinnati, Ohio. But also, I'm going to hopefully start traveling this year a little bit more and doing those on the road. So I'll be in the UK later this year, and I may do some bookings there too. So keep an eye out on my Instagram, The Wisdom of Odin, and hopefully you'll be able to connect with me and, we'll get to do a tattoo together. But otherwise, that's all on my website as well, jacobtoddson.com. But with that, let's get back to this episode discussing the many different topics we're talking about today. It's a lot, but I hope you enjoy it.
Anyone else? So, like, if Odin represented that youthful adventurer traveler, do you think you'll work with a different deity in the Norse pantheon to call in the hearth kind of earthy aspect of
Yeah.
yourself.
I think in general, I think you we see a lot of the spirit of hospitality
Mm.
within all ancient worlds, especially in Northern Europe, is being a good host and keeping a warm fire and having good food and all these things are so prized. In the Celtic world, we hear about this all the time. It's like the kings, the earls, the chieftains, they would all try to have like the best hospitality to be shown
Mm.
off their power and things. And we see that in the Norse world as well. So yeah, I think for me, I don't necessarily connect to a singular god of that. Like you could look at Bragi or Idun or even Thor to some degrees, or you can even go into really good depth with like the cook of Valhalla with Sahumnir and Ahumnir. I think is maybe
Mm.
not correct pronunciation, but the feast of Valhalla.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for me, I'm just connecting to that spirit of hospitality, of the
Mm.
everyday life. Again, especially working in restaurants again, to help get by, I battled that for a long time, but I also realized that I just love serving and I love taking
Yeah.
care of people, and I can find quite a lot of joy in that, without necessarily needing, again, this big fiery thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. It's a much more sort of humble approach to life, isn't it? That sounds really, really, really good. I think I'm a very similar sort of chapter of my life as well, where it's more like how do I dream weave a future where I can make sure I'm strongly attached to ritual and magic and my spirit is fed whilst grounding into the more sort of maternal aspects of myself. Um, and it's yeah, I'm lucky as well. My partner's super on the same path as me, and we do our folklore tours together, which are super spirited. So it keeps us constantly in a process of ritual when we're doing those. So that's nice, and I feel
yeah.
like that's something that I'm hoping to dream weave and call in on the path this year is more of that, more sort of showing people the land, more showing them rituals, and in that sense, I keep that alive in myself as well.
Yeah.
So that's
Would you say you had a fire stage, like like a big burning, fiery, passionate pagan stage?
yeah, I think so. I mean, a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I was living with five witch sisters in one house share. And we called ourselves the Coven, and the house was called the Badger Den. And it
Bunch
was
of badges.
it was a bunch of bloody badgers, but it was a really deep ritualistic time. We were really sort of landing into what it meant to be like the raw gnarly aspect of the female witch. We're doing a lot of sound weaving and healing, which was really quite like bizarre. I mean, God knows what our neighbors must have thought because there was a lot of drumming and screaming and wailing and singing and flailing and all sorts of creativity coming from that house at different times. And that felt very much like we were building a furnace together
Hmm.
and sort of setting our spiritual essences on fire. We were really getting to know spirit at that point. And then, as I think it probably happens for most people, I mean, they say it happens more towards your 30s. For me, it's more towards my 40s. So I'm 38 in May.
No
I've
one would ever
delayed,
guess that.
I've delayed growing up by a decade. But I think for, that kind of wind down phase where you're kind of then you start to go, okay, well, actually, I'm more inward now. There's a part of me that doesn't feel like I need so much stimulation to be close to spirit.
Yeah.
Um, it feels more about building, like it feels more about family at this point and
Hmm.
building, just a close few.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, like before this episode, for our listeners, Kubi and I were just shooting ideas for like
Mhm.
episodes, and we shot a pretty good list, and I feel like everything we're going to touch on a little bit here because we just want to talk about so much. But everything you just said kind of makes me reflect on animism a bit more as well. Like I'm doing
Mm.
like my Shinto research right now. Like I've been reading books on Shintoism in Japan because I think that's probably like the most surviving tradition of animism still today.
Mm.
Um, and the thing that I find interesting about an animistic view versus a polytheistic, which I do think they can kind of live side by side, is animism is more about the everyday connection to spirit. because it's the understanding that everything
Mm,
has spirit, and so there's endless opportunity to connect to it. Or in
mm,
the Shinto tradition, the kami is yes, there could be kami of the tree outside. There's the kami, the spirit of the person nearby to you or of your house, and so every time you wake up, you can connect to some kind of spirit. It doesn't need to be
mm.
a totem of an ancient god in the forest because the spirits are all around us. And I think
Yeah.
when we're younger and that fiery stage, we need that thing to look at and say, "You are spirit," and it helps us kind of like focus our energies. But then eventually
Mm.
you realize the energy is everywhere, and there's always opportunities to connect.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I suppose they're more like way showers, aren't they? The major gods of the Norse and the Celtic
Yeah,
pantheon. They could be considered like wisdom keepers or way showers, which you need that direction in your 20s and in your
yeah,
30s even. You need that person to lead and be like, this is what you're going to represent and this is what you're going to work towards. And I think maybe as you get a bit older, it's that thing where you can kind of, you're your own teacher at this point. You're your own, you're a student of life rather than a student of a one particular or one path in particular or one
yeah.
god in particular. And yeah, I agree. I think there's so much. I mean, in the Celtic folklore, it's called the She,
Mm,
and it's the spirit of the land. It's the they believed like the old gods even shrank into the Fae and kind of went into this other world realm, which is everywhere and nowhere all at once, but it's
yeah.
accessed through the land, and that's because everything in the land is alive. So it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because it's almost like polytheism is wrapped up within animism,
Yeah.
realistically.
I do think they're kind of an like a evolution of each other. Like for me and the
Mm.
way I picture things and the way I've digested information is we naturally flowed through animism into polytheism and then into monotheism. And now I think
Mm.
we had this long time with monotheism and now I think it's spreading out again into polytheism and animism. And so I think we're going to have this kind of
Mm.
curve. So in 1,000 years, we might be back to monotheism as the primary belief system. But I think we're in that transition window into a more polytheistic, animistic worldview again.
Interesting. That is really interesting. I mean, to throw a complete curveball in, my belief system is more sort of, I call it theo-druidry, because I
Yeah.
really believe that there's like a central, for me, it's a sun god and an earth goddess, which is more
Yeah.
dualistic, I
Yeah.
suppose. And that everything else is alive and like animism, you can interact with everything, and that there are other gods that are secondary to this sun god and the earth goddess.
Right.
So that's a whole other thing as well, isn't it? Because that's
Yeah.
almost reflection of it's like where Christianity squiffed us, but it's actually in
Mm.
a pagan way. So it's like reclaiming. I
Honestly, I
don't
think
know.
I should recommend the Shinto books I'm reading. I think you would find them interesting.
Yeah.
Shintoism is really hard to kind of grasp because some of the language is it's like old Japanese. It's not like one word. Like a name for a god can be like eight
Mm.
words. Because they have the idea of the kami and the spirits and what's around us, but then they do kind of have gods as well, and they're wrapped up into there. But they're like, oh yeah, the sun goddess, she's there, she's important, but they don't typically honor like her in a polytheistic way, which is
Right.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. What culture is that book's from?
Japanese.
Oh, it's Japanese. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I've not looked at anything like that at all. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been very fascinating because, yeah, like one of the opening things, like Shintoism has been recorded as a thing for like a little over 1,000 years, but they obviously suspect it's been going on much further in time. And that's only because, it's very interesting to me is the only time we discern religions as a thing
Mm.
is when they come in contact with other belief systems. And this is true with
Mm.
paganism and Christianity, is no one needed to say, I'm a pagan until Christianity said, hey, what are you?
Right. And then you need
Wait,
to
what are you?
define.
Um,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Buddhism came in contact with Shintoism in Japan through China.
Mm.
And it's at this time that they needed to define what it was. And so that's when the word Shintoism came from, is because the Buddhists were like, "What are you?" They're like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean, what am I?" So
Yeah.
really fascinating because Shintoism, I think, was first recorded in Chinese as a word. Like the Chinese wrote it
Mm.
down. Uh,
Right.
yeah, and so it is interesting that to me, an uncontacted culture doesn't need a name for their belief system. It's just what they are. It's just their
Mm.
beliefs.
Yeah.
And I know there's been that conversation within like the Norse world as well. Like some people call it like foreign Sather, which I think it just means like the old way. And
Mm.
that's the way a lot of paganism was discussed in some of the earlier source material in England and the Celtic world is it was just the old way of
Yeah.
doing things.
Yeah. I like that. I feel like a real resonance with that. That
Yeah.
it's like an old way of being on these lands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and it maybe it doesn't need defining, and I think maybe there's a danger of trying to define it because then it sort of limits us, doesn't it, into how far we can reach within that. And
Yeah. Well, and I
yeah,
think you can
yeah,
even see that in the Shinto book I've been reading. It's really thin. Like I can go grab it in a second, but it's really thin. And even in the opening monologue, it's just like Shintoism was never something that was meant to be defined. It's something that
right,
just is. And I think that's something we struggle with in our age of books, of the internet, of our hashtags and our labels, is we want to define things so much, and categorize them, but a lot of the times beliefs can't be categorized.
yeah, yeah.
It just
That's it.
is.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and that kind of brings me back to thinking about the dream time as well, because
Yeah.
it's everything that we're talking about comes from that dream world, from the other world. Um, what was the word for it in the Norse sort of for the Celtic pantheon stuff? It's the other world. It's just the other world. But is there another word for it in the Norse
Um, you put
kind
me
of
on the
side of
spot
things?
here. I might think of it. I mean, I don't want to say it's weird, like the web of weird kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
Um, but there's like the nine realms that we know
yeah,
of, and there's just the other realms. There's Vanaheim, Alfheim, and Svartalfheim and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I don't know if there's as a discernment between our reality and the other reality, because the
yeah,
Celtic world is much more based on that. There's our reality and the other world, and that's kind of it.
yeah. Yeah, there's a few realms within it. Like there's Magmel and Tin and Og. I suppose they're different names for the other world, but potentially also realms within it. But it's fascinating because I think this time of year we're invited to go into that death of the season, into the dreaming that comes after the death but before life. And so we almost get an opportunity to merge with the other world and with
Yeah,
those, whatever we, whether it's animism or the polytheistic kind of aspect of the gods there's that merging of that realm because we get to go very quiet within ourselves and we get to feel it and to dream with it and co-create with it.
yeah,
So that's fascinating to me, like the idea of how do you invoke that even more? And I was talking about this with some people in my art group, and we were thinking maybe the idea of stillness, maybe accessing complete stillness and that complete rest is when we start to feel the other world creep closer to us and those realms creep closer to us so that we
yeah.
may get a chance to sort of co-create with the gods for the
Mm.
rest of the year ahead.
Yeah. Well, gosh, here we go. We can weave it into, everything we talked about in our pre meeting is
Mm.
like to me that's almost like connecting to the muse
Yeah,
of
yeah,
how do you keep yourself purified, ready, and able to receive the messages from the divine. And to me,
yeah,
that's all religion is religion is a rule set, tools and techniques used to stay connected to the divine.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And when you're saying muses, are there do you mean the different creative aspects that can come
Yeah,
from
I
being human?
Yeah, I haven't done my full research, so nothing I say here is like definitive. It's just my personal
Mm.
interpretation of the muses. Is the muses are the spirits that connect us to creativity and inspire us. But you
Mm.
can make an argument that the source in which creativity and art comes from is the divine, the other world. And so they are the bridges between us and the other world that allow us to be connected.
Oh, I
Um,
love that. Yeah,
yeah, and I
100%.
and I say that because I read a book called the Creative Way, I think it was called. It's a completely not spiritual book. It was a book purely written by an artist for artists. And the thing that is so fascinating to me is in the beginning, he's like, art is spirit, art is spirituality. And if he's like, you can believe art isn't spiritually connected at all, but you're wrong. He's like,
Yeah.
art has
Yeah.
always worked alongside of belief and spirit because that's the only thing that makes sense of where creativity comes from.
Yeah. And I'm always confused, like, is art the gateway to spirit, or is spirit the gateway to art and creativity? Because
Two-way road.
right,
Yeah.
you can't separate one from the other. They sort of seem to happen at the same time, don't they?
Yeah.
And that brings me back as well to the idea of in the Celtic folklore, the pantheon of Ceridwen, which is like the keeper of the cauldron, and people are often questioning, with the story of Taliesin, who's the famous bard of the Celtic folklore world, and he gets born from this basically from this cauldron. I don't know if you know the story. I've probably shared it on here before at some point.
Probably share it again.
It's
We
quite a
forgot it.
wacky story, yeah. So she's this witch, and she's got a
I'm
servant
listening,
called
but I'm grabbing
Glee.
my Shintoism book. Keep going. Keep
Oh,
going.
okay. She's got a big cauldron that she's brewing for her son because he's hideously ugly, and she wants to make him sort of wise, knowledgeable instead. And she puts all these different herbs in, and she gets her servant Guion back to stir it. And he's quite clumsy, and when he gets a taste of like a little bit flies out, and he tastes it, she gets furious because she goes, no, now you've got the knowledge of the world, and those first drops were meant to be potent, and they're meant to be for my son. And she basically chases her servant, and they turn into different things, like a creature of the sky, a creature of the land, a creature of the sea. And eventually he outsmarts her, thinking, I'll turn into a seed so she can't find me. And he drops himself into lots of different seeds. And she pecks as a hen. She turns herself into a hen. Eventually she pecks the seed, which is him, and in revenge swallows him. And he turns into Taliesin through a 9 month gestation period, like she's pregnant with him. And then he's born as Taliesin, the famous bard. And at first glance, this story is just so weird. And you're like, what? Hang on, what is going on in this
Every Celtic
story?
story. Every
It's like
one.
so trippy. But when you really pick that story apart, I think it's about this, it's through these sort of struggles and hardships of being chased by things, and you having to transform and turn into different things to meet different challenges. And you have to go into a bit of a gestation period in order to bring out creativity and to come out as this bard, as this more creative version of what was originally Guion Back the servant. So I think the winter is like that. The winter is like Ceridwen's cauldron, and we get thrown into it, and we get invited to go into that dreamtime elixir to meet the challenges of the winter, to meet the hurdles within ourselves. And from brewing that potion and being still with life and at one with life, we get an opportunity to access, yeah, the other world, the creative realms, and to come out as sort of dreaming creative individuals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
really interesting. Yeah, we are in the cauldron.
Yeah, it reminds me like something I very in my history of getting into spirituality and belief and all this stuff, I very rarely use the term alchemize because to
Mm,
me, alchemize tends to dip more into hermeticism, and
yeah.
that's not typically my pathway. However, like you just said, like everything mixing together in the cauldron. For me,
Mm,
I have been using the term alchemizing a lot in the last 6 months, or in this last year of the winter for me, so to speak, of pulling together all these elements, the good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful, and
mm,
seeing what this potion becomes, what
yeah.
is created from this. And, like anything that's in a cauldron and on the fire, is it takes a while to figure that out. It needs time to cook. Um, and
Mm,
so I think, yeah, January, this time of year is to let everything settle
Yeah.
and see what comes through. But you have to let
It's
it
like
cook.
put it on simmer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like put it on, let it. Yeah, it's so true.
So draw yourself a bath and let yourself simmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is just about dreaming these couple of months, just dreaming and envisioning and resting and taking care. Um, I was going to ask, because I've had a few ideas around this as well. Is there a way, do you think, to create a ritual to actually invoke that process of inviting yourself into the cave, into the dreaming, into the other world? Is there something that you would like maybe recommend, like for your
Mm,
viewers and things like that?
shut the
Like
fuck up and sit still.
just, just yeah. So more like an
Yeah.
isolation ritual than
Yeah.
anything else.
I think, I've been I'm trying to pull together like six elements right now into to a single line of thought, but we have never had so little time to sit and think as a species, I feel like
Mm.
I'm listening to this audio book on the history of Scotland right now, and like I've just gotten to the time of like conversion, and like one of the things they're talking about is like even the early monks would walk for like 6 days. They're like, oh, I need to go to this other cathedral, and they would walk for 6 days and commune with God. Like that's what they talked about that they did. They
Yeah.
walked the shores of Scotland and communed with God.
Yeah.
And you might not consider it the Christian God, but maybe you need to just take 6 days and commune with yourself, commune with Odin, commune with the Great Spirit. It doesn't matter. I think we just
Mm.
need the time to commune, and we're not
Yeah.
allowing ourselves that time.
So it's actually finding that dedicated time to be present to life and to
Yeah.
invite that in. Because I suppose what a lot of people might find difficult is how to do that because we're almost being trained through like iPhones and like reels and ads and so much stimulation to constantly be seeking the next thing and to be
Hmm.
overstimulated. So to be invited into stillness, I suppose feels weird for people. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like they don't know how to do it anymore. And so
Yeah.
I was thinking, is there a deliberate thing that we could I was trying to think of a ritual. Like I was almost going down the route of like, what about a death mask? Like, where you just sort of create like I don't know, paint the cosmos onto a mask and then do a meditation where you put this mask on with you light the fire and you call in perhaps Ceridwen from the Celtic pantheon. And who would the alternative be for like winter and dreaming for the
Uh,
Norse?
let's see. I mean, obviously, you could call it like the Kaliach and other Celtic belief systems. You could connect to that idea.
Mm.
Um, I mean, winter beings, you have Uller, you have Skathi, but maybe not necessarily them.
Mm.
Um, I mean, again, Odin sitting on the world tree
Yeah.
would
Oh,
be a good
right.
one. Yeah,
Of
because he just
course.
hung himself in the world tree for 9 days and 9 nights. And so it's like
Mm.
you need to find what that world tree is for you. What
Yeah.
is the place or the ritual you need to sit there and take up because like he sits there for 9 days and 9 nights, sacrificing himself to himself, and at the very end, then he receives the gifts of the runes. And so, in order to receive the gift, you must make
Ooh,
the sacrifice of yourself to yourself. And so, however that is to you, I'm not saying literally like kill yourself. I'm saying you need to find what it means for you to make a sacrifice for yourself.
that's fascinating that's in the Norse stories with the whole Odin and how he came upon that happened upon the runes and that wisdom, because we've got there's Vipassana, isn't there, which is this the art of meditating and being completely silent for 10 days. And you go to a retreat. They've got them all around the world. I've done them a few times before I had dogs, and now I can't take 10-day holidays. My life is in devotion to the dogs instead of myself now. So that's a thing of the past. But I remember I used to do it once a year. And it's going into complete silence, and they give you beautiful vegetarian food and you go and you meditate just for 10 and it's 12 hours meditation a day for 10 days in complete silence in a room full of strangers and it always felt like being welcomed back into the womb, like back into this linear liminal time before time began, where you just get to be. And it's so cool that you actually have these centers that can hold that space for that to happen,
Mm.
and you're with other people doing it. But I wonder, like, it feels like we should have a pagan version of that, you know? Like, I wonder if, like, maybe that's enough. Maybe someone can do that retreat. Like, I'm putting that out there.
Well, I mean, here we
Like
go.
a,
Here's a real world example. We've already mentioned them.
mm,
Ditching the iPhone, ditching the phone for a day. You know,
yeah.
that, obviously digital minimalism is something I've talked about, we've talked about, something that's talked about quite a lot now because we've had smartphones in our lives for, a decade and a half now. And I think we're talking about a silence retreat. We need to silence these bad boys more often. And
Yeah.
so I do think, I recommend it all the time. Just take a day where you don't have your smartphone on you. Like it feels alien
Yeah.
because we're so used to it. But for 15 years of our entire human history is all we've had these things. And
Yeah.
so we really need to get used to idea that we don't need these with us all the time.
Yeah.
Um, they're not companions, they're tools. Um, and the moment you realize that you can't go more than an hour or two without the smartphone, that's when you really need to do the time without them.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking to so many of us there, I think. Like I struggle with that as well. Massively so. I had to put a child lock on mine and I had to get Edward to put in the password.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
I
don't
have the
know
same.
it.
Yeah, I have 1 hour of Instagram a day.
Same. I
And
do that.
Emma has the password, not me.
That's exactly great minds think alike there, Jacob.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how great is it to be
Oh,
liberated from it? My
I hate it and
God.
love it so much because like there'll be days all of a sudden it'll be like 11 o'clock and I've used the entire hour. I'm like, how did I do that already? And it kind of makes you realize like I've already wasted an hour of my day.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's kind of a shame thing to have to like approach your partner and be like, could you give me more time on my smartphone, please?
Oh, I've put mine so that I can't get into it till 4 p.m. So I have an hour from 4 to 5 to do all my online stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's even, I suppose then it gives me a chance to get on with the day as well. Like, even if
Yeah.
that's resting and self-care, like it's not being glued to the phone. And yeah, we need a rebellion about this, don't we? And
Yeah.
I think us pagans need to lead it because we're meant to be about what's natural and true and
Yeah.
returning back to the old ways.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I just had this gathering. We left on a Thursday, came back on a Monday,
Mm.
and I had my phone on me, but it was mostly to like communicate with people on the property, and take pictures. Otherwise, I didn't really use it. And it's so interesting. I did a lot of deep work. Actually, I'm usually pretty open, but there's some stuff I can't talk about like on the podcast because it was so intimate to me that I had to do at this retreat. And so it was really, I mean, there was a point I was just crying profusely. And
Mm.
so it was a really healing thing for me in many ways. I said goodbye to Odin, said goodbye to this time of fire. And then I get back Monday, and I found that since I've gotten back, I've had an issue wanting to go into my phone more, which is weird. And
That's weird.
I think it's because there's like a void now. Like I did the work, and now there's just a void, and this feels so good to feel the void with.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's so dangerous about social media, technology, video games, even TV shows, is they're really good at filling voids. Um, but they're
Yeah.
not the best thing to fill our voids with.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so I suppose what do you fill into that? Especially at this time of the year when it's the dreaming. If you were to stop,
Yeah, I think creativity. I think creativity is a
brings
really
us back.
great thing. Because I did like what was it? It was like Monday, I got back. Tuesday, I went into the tattoo shop and
Mm,
I had a surprisingly good amount of creative things. Like I just sat there and I drew and I had ideas. And then sure enough, yesterday I, kind of woke up, I, played some video games, I got on my phone, and then I felt like shit. It's
mm,
like I should have just kept that going and kept the creative communion going. And it was that the moment I went back to these things that I felt the heaviness come back.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because creativity is when we get to be closest. I think we talked about this on another podcast, perhaps as well, but creativity fills that void, doesn't it? And it actually stops that need to glitch out and go back to technology
Yeah.
because we're doing something quite profound when we create. We're actually co-creating with the gods. We're bringing something else that doesn't exist yet into being through our being.
Yeah.
So it is the closest thing to dream weaving with these beings that are all around us and with these energies that are all around us.
Yeah.
Um,
Something
yeah.
I've been enjoying doing as well is I've gotten a lot more into audiobooks recently.
Mm,
Um, but I've been walking a lot more, like when the weather's actually nice, and then I listen to the audiobook. And so like doing an hour long walk, most audiobooks are 8 to 9 hours. You do that 8 days in a row, you're done with the book. And so I don't know,
mm,
it's just been a really like a healthier way to consume content is with
yeah.
audiobooks for me.
Right. Do you have any good sort of like pagan recommendations for people that are sort of looking
Like
to
for
dive
audiobooks.
into, yeah, like,
I think this is all up to everyone's personal taste. I'm a history nerd. I love history.
mm,
And so I have been like, there's just random cultures I want to learn the history of. And I find that I don't want to read a massive textbook, but having an audiobook for these things is really helpful. So yeah, like right now I'm doing
mm,
a history of pre-Christian Scotland. And then I have like a few books loaded up on the history of Rome. I really want to find a good one on the history of India. That's been really hard to find, is like a good history of India history book. Um,
mm.
yeah, because I find those books are just a bit dry to get through yourself, and so having someone read them to you is really helpful.
Yeah, yeah, they sound full on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recommend like, as far as like my big spiritual books, like, I have one right here, like Soulcraft or his Nature and the Human Soul. I recommend doing your actual spiritual books in person because I
Mm,
find that when you're reading a line that really is impactful to you and you're reading it and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you need to stop and absorb what you just read. Whereas if you have an audiobook discussing this with you, it's just going to keep going and you're not going to have time to sit with the words you just read. So I find that, yeah, entertaining or something that is just straight information is better in audiobook. But yeah, anything that needs to be
mm.
contemplative, I recommend still having physical books.
Right. And it's so nice to scribble on them. I'm terrible. All my
Yeah.
books are defaced and they all have little notes in them. But one thing I was going to definitely recommend, because if we're in that dreaming where you're sort of in that sort of almost, yeah, that trippy space. The dreaming is very trippy, right? It's neither here nor there. The Mabinogion is such a good book to read
Mm,
because it's full of that energy. It's full of that kind of like barely tangible kind of semi-nonsense folklore.
yeah.
And that's a really good introduction to all the, at least the Welsh Celtic pantheon. It's a really good time to get to know them this time of year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Again, like this Scottish history book, it talks about like, the bards and the problems with Gaelic and
Mm.
Gaelic. And just the way that the Celtic people communicated with each other is very different. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's still people that speak Irish today and Welsh. And the reason that us English speakers struggle with it is because it's just a completely different sentence structure. And so
Yeah.
it only makes sense that the language used in the mythologies is just so bizarre. And so that's why I think when we talk about their mythologies of the Mabinogion or like anything
Mm.
else, is just like it's dreamlike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because they talked in a dreamlike way.
That's quite magic, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I wonder what would happen if people started talking more like that in a more sort of liminal way.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that would change everything, wouldn't it?
So it was interesting. At this last event, Logan, like my good friend and community leader, he's really into the skalds of the Norse world.
Mm.
And the skalds were seen as wizards, kind of similar to bards. Like bards were seen as quite magical. And the skalds had very interesting and unique poetic meters to communicate. And based on the complexity of the poetic meter that they used, they were seen as stronger wizards. And there's
Okay.
actual stories from Iceland saying like this skald used his magic to kill somebody or win this king over. Like the way they built their sentence
Mm.
structure, which again is interesting because they weren't writing these things necessarily; they were orally memorizing them, which is fucking
Mm.
crazy.
Mm.
And so he was trying to teach us one of the poetic sentence structures, and it is so hard the way like all the words had to relate to each other. But he kind of showed us
Mm.
an example. I don't know if it's like easily accessible to me right now. Um, but just seeing, oh wait, here it is. I found it. Okay, so this is a Drokavet, which is an old Icelandic poetic meter, and this one is to honor the Norse god Njord. Waves and sand and windfalls, wishes, gold, and old friends, boons of salted Sultan, signs from the god of brine spray, scream flood swept hair sculpted, scans his foaming domain, shell shocked praying pilgrims praise his marbled harbor.
Wow, that really conveys a feeling, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, that's not, even though it's in English, you can tell right away that it's like, that's not our sentence structure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
oh,
just,
yeah, completely
yeah.
different. That's beautiful though, because it's interesting that it does still convey the probably what they were trying to convey. That visual image that you get from it is just, and the feeling it conveys.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna try to describe it the way he did. Like he's such a nerd about this, and I love it. So like one of the lines, "Scream flood swept hair sculpted," is like a triple kinning.
Yeah.
So Scream Flood is a name for Ymir. Swept hair is referencing the fact that his hair was used as, I think, wood for the world when they were like making the planet. And then swept hair sculpted is a reference to driftwood, which is what was used to form humanity by Odin. So Scream Flood swept hair sculpted is a reference to humanity.
Wow, that's
It's like,
amazing. I suppose you have to really know you have to be able to
yeah,
unpick the kennings. You have to know the meaning behind everything.
yeah.
I suppose with the Ogham and the Celtic with their kennings,
Mm,
they're all they were written in the Ogham manuscript as a way to disguise the Ogham so that they would only be read by magical minds and understood by magical
mm,
minds. So you'd
yeah.
get like a
Ah,
commoner would
filthy
come and read it,
commoner.
but they wouldn't have filthy commoner, but they wouldn't have the education around what it even meant, and so they wouldn't be able to unpick it, and thus they wouldn't be able to work with its magic.
Yeah. Well, and here
Those
we go,
words.
returning to, the everyday stuff. We talk about rituals. You can
Mm,
talk about the totem in the woods of an ancient god's face. But even the way in which we use words can be seen as magic and connection.
yeah.
Because just like that poem there's so much more depth in language
Mm,
than our culture is tapping into anymore. I would
mm,
argue that, obviously we don't have audio recordings of the way people conversated 1,000 years. But I believe that the eloquence of the bards, the skalds, that was magic.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, 100%.
yeah, and I don't think we use our magic anymore, not as
I
much
mean,
as
we
we used.
talk spelling is it's like a wordcraft, right? You spell something into being. It's spelling.
Yeah.
You're casting a spell when you write, when you speak, and maybe it's particularly potent to manifest using the right words this time of year because we're in that dreaming elixir of life. So when people are saying, "Oh, what's your New Year's resolution, or what do you want to do for the rest of the year? What are you hoping to happen?" It's more about saying, "I will do this,"
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
"This is going to happen for me." It's actually like calling it in assertively rather than saying, "Oh, maybe this will happen, but I don't really feel like I'm good enough," or
Right.
you know what I mean? Like saying things with real conviction, knowing that they're spells, these words.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. Because even
Mm.
like looking at last year, like even though I'm not the biggest on New Year's resolutions, like New Year's Eve last year, like the previous year, is when I like had bought my tattoo stuff and had decided to tattoo myself for the first time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And so it's like, and it was shit, it was a horrible tattoo, but I was like, I'm setting the tone that this year is the year of tattooing. And I think
Yeah,
the thing that's hard is that even though I determined that beginning of last year, I didn't make that a reality until like September is when I actually got into the tattoo shop. So it took me 9 months to actually make it real. But if I
yeah,
would have given up on that the first month, because I'm like, oh shit, I'm not in a tattoo shop right away. It's like,
yeah.
then I would have never done it. So now's the time to speak things, but not necessarily do them.
Yes, absolutely. Speak them into being, speak them into reality. And maybe even write, because we're talking about creativity, maybe even paint them or write
Mm.
poems or write songs and bring them in that way.
Yeah.
It does feel quite potent at the moment, actually. Me and the band, we had a beautiful evening last week where we hired a big yurt in this like nice little woodland area, and we had a lovely fire going all night, and we spent the whole night um, co-creating and weaving new songs for the year ahead together as a little tribe, and it was so beautiful, and it the energy felt so strong and so potent and rich. Like it was so much easier to pull songs in than it has
Yeah.
been for me for a long time. And I think, yeah, it's a really good time to tap into that potential.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think again, no better time to, mention like Bridget, um,
Yeah.
her being the goddess of crafts and craftsmen. I really connect to her in the form of the spark of creativity. The
Yeah.
spark of the hammer, the first thing that gets the fire started. Now's the time of the spark. What's the spark for
Mhm.
you? You don't have to be the raging flame, you don't have to be the completed steel, but what's
Yeah.
that creative spark?
The initial, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. It's like a star being born in the middle of the cosmos. You know what I mean? It's the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, looking back even when I was in art school, the thing I
Mm.
hated the most is when they were like, just do whatever you want. They didn't give you something to attach to. You just need, when it comes to creativity, sometimes all you need is a singular word. What
Mm.
does pain mean to you? And 20 people in a room, pain all means something different to them and all create something different. But you need
Yeah.
that initial something to make something happen. You
Yeah.
can't just be like, do whatever you want. And it's like,
It's overwhelming for so many
yeah, yeah.
people. That's really, I mean, for me, that I love that. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
the playground is mine. I can do what I want. But it can also be really overwhelming for a lot of people that not having any guidance as well about what to do, what to dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, maybe from time to time, like that's a good ritual to be like, I need a blank canvas and just to go for it.
Mm.
But I think for the vast majority of us, and I think for the vast majority of the time, having something to be like if someone came into the tattoo shop today and says, Jacob, I want a hand poke tattoo to whatever you want. I don't think I would do that. I would be like, what are
Yeah.
you trying to connect to? Are you trying to
Yeah.
connect to a certain god or goddess? Are you trying to connect to your ancestors? And then I would explore it. But if you told me to do whatever I want, you know, I don't know if it would be as true as
Yeah.
a tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That is true, isn't it? It needs more depth. So yeah, but I mean, I wonder if there's a lot of people watching this going, God, I don't know what I want to dream in for this year ahead. I don't know.
Mm.
I haven't got a clue. And if you don't have a clue, then creativity will lead you to it. I'm a big
Yeah,
believer of that. Like maybe doing like, I mean, it's a bit cliche, but doing like a manifestation board or like you said, painting something into being and just
yeah,
sitting with yourself in ritual and light a candle with a canvas and say, what do I want to dream this year into being?
yeah,
What does life want from me this year? If you don't know what you want from you, what do the gods want from me this year? How can I be of service to life on earth? And just start to paint it. Or if painting's not your thing, you could even, what's it called? Automatic writing it into being and see
yeah.
if there's anything that comes up with that.
Or I have one over here somewhere. It's like a paint by numbers thing.
Right.
It's like where it's just like literally put orange in one, red in two, and find one of those. It doesn't need to be something that's like original artwork. Like if it's something that just like half the time in the tattoo shop we're tracing things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like green men, and so I find 100 pictures of green men, and I'm just tracing green men, and then through that
Mm.
tracing, I'm also figuring out my own identity to my connection to them. And like that's what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
I found a bunch of, rock carvings and I'm tracing rock carvings and then I'm
Mm.
refining them to make them more modern and to tattoo friendly. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's like if I would have went into the tattoo shop just and it's like you have to create things from scratch, you're screwed.
Yeah.
That comes later. I think
Yes.
you
Yeah.
need that spark, especially if your fire's been out for so long. You can't just expect to be that raging fire of creativity the next day. You need to
Yeah.
find something to get it going.
Yes, absolutely it, isn't it? Oh, lovely. So I suppose that's it, isn't it? What do you feel like you're dreaming? If you could summarize what you're dreaming in for this year, Would you say it is that earthing and rooting down? Is it, have you got any other projects boiling in the cauldron that you want to
Yeah,
speak?
what's boiling in my cauldron? Well, that's a good question. So we'll do our podcasting thing, and if you're a viewer and you've made it this far into the video, what's
Mm.
brewing in your cauldron this year? Maybe that'll be the
Mm.
the title of the episode. What's brewing in your cauldron? Um,
Yeah.
and so if what I kind of made a video at the start of the year like that because I was just kind of sharing my what I'm hoping to do for the remainder of the year.
Mm.
So I have quite a few goals. One of those is getting more into my physical health, and refining it. I've lost a lot of
Mm.
weight, as many people have noticed and pointed out, but I want to continue that process. Like, okay, I've lost the weight, but what am I doing now? And honestly, I'm just not a meathead. I'm not a like, let's go lift 500 pounds because I'm strong. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. But I have always loved walking. Like, for some reason, from the
Mm.
day I figured out how to walk, I just like walking as long as possible. And so I'm testing myself this year. Next year, I want to do one of the longest walks in Scotland as far as like a, planned route. And that's going to be the West Highland Way, going from Glasgow to Ben Nevis. It's 96 miles, takes 6 to 7 days, depending on how fast you do it. And that's not something you just do. That's something you have to kind of train
Mm.
for a little bit. I know some people have, but and then eventually I'd like to try take on the Appalachian Trail here, which is a trail. Do you even know what that is?
No, I've not heard of that.
Oh my gosh, it's like one of the longest trail networks in the world. And so you start in like the Northeast or the very far south of the United States, and you walk across like it's a crazy amount. It's like 8 states or something like that, and it takes on average 6 months of walking to complete.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That would
yes,
be so epic, wouldn't it?
yeah,
You'd have calves of steel by the end of that.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if I'd ever take on the full 6 months. I have people
Mm.
I care about, but a lot of people will do segments. So they'll do like a week or two segment. So there's really just infinite possibilities that you can do with that. And so, yeah, I just want to start challenging myself with those. And that starts, I have a trail network near me that's 105 miles. And so I'm going to start doing segments of that. And I think that'll also give me the time to commune with the spirits
Yeah.
of, because like typically if you're walking, you're not on your phone and maybe you're listening to music or an audiobook or whatever. I'm going to
Mm.
invite people to go with me, wherever I'm doing them in the world, invite my friends and let's just walk for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a lot of connection there. And then like as far as the creativity for me, I'm going to Sweden in July to get a hand poke tattoo from an artist I really respect. Because as I've learned, the best way to learn how to tattoo is to get tattooed by somebody else. And so I want to
Mm.
continue to evolve my skills. And so I'm gonna go learn more of these hand poke techniques. So yeah, those are like kind of the main goals for me. Obviously some other personal ones, but yeah, that's what's in my cauldron right now.
Oh, I love that. That sounds so like there's so many different branches there to that tree. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's a lot to get excited about for the year ahead.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah.
What's in your cauldron?
I've almost left the cauldron a little bit blank this year. Normally, I plan a million things, a million projects, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, why have I done so many projects this year? So this year, I'm sort of trying to challenge myself in January to ask the universe, what does it want from me, really? I'm trying to sort of almost read the land omens to see where it's taking me, what projects want to be birthed, which ones want to continue, things like that. But really, I would say my central focus this year is more personal. It's more sort of deepening my relationship with my partner, calling in family, rooting down more into Glastonbury, and we've um we've started launching we have launched our folklore tours together. So that feels like a really beautiful co-creation to start that all off with. So sort of learning how to do that even more together, visiting more sacred sites, I think deepening even more into the sacred this year. That's something that I want to keep burning really bright in my life, especially through my relationship with Edward. That we're both very spirited
Yeah.
human beings, so it feels like creating even more sacred. ritual and ceremony between us this year. It feels like it would just be even more beautiful. It's more like putting more logs on the fire for me this year. I think it's more, warming the hearth that's already lit, even more. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, good. Something you
Mm.
said about like the trees and the branches reminded me something a friend of mine sent me. It's something, maybe reflect on for our viewers as well. Um, it's just a simple little phrase. The most rare natural resource in the universe is not platinum, not gold, carbon, or water, but trees.
Oh, bless the trees.
Yeah. And that's something that, yeah, like it's so simple, but it's so true. Like we
Mm.
know of infinite stars and planets and places, even maybe with water, but as far as we know, we have never seen any evidence in the known universe that there is another planet with trees on it.
That's such a crazy thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a mind-blowing thing to think about. That makes them very, very like precious, doesn't it? Even more so than,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
that's something that I've been reflecting on and maybe it's going to leave the listeners with is when you look at a tree, it's like thank it because it's more valuable than a star.
wow, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they are so special trees. Like they're real way showers. I find them like each of them, they're so unique. Each type of tree has such deep wisdom. And they really feel like grandparent wisdom to me every single time I connect with the tree. And I do a lot of I use a couple of rods to connect with them now as well and communicating with them that way. And it's profound the stuff that comes through.
Yeah, they got personalities.
Yeah, they do. They
What's a lot?
really do. They
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
really do. In the same way that plants do. I mean, you think about sort of the sacred and the medicine plants, they get a real acknowledgement for that. They would say mother, grandmother ayahuasca and grandfather San Pedro. But what about the trees? Like just, sitting with the trees and listening to them and meditating with them. They're also grandparents of this land. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that'll be a
More
good thing
more
to talk
trees
about.
this year.
More trees
More
this year.
trees
Yeah.
this year.
Well, when we come back in February, it'll be time to talk about plant life a little bit more as early spring
Mm.
emerges. But yeah, I think that's a good contemplative thing to end on. But
Yeah,
thank you to everyone who's stopped in to listen to us ramble, and I hope it's been helpful to everyone.
yeah. And may your dreams be beautiful dreams in this dream time.
May your cauldron soup be delicious. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Tree of Life podcast next month. Bye bye.